Aesop stories.
Number 31. The story of Duke the dog and the oxen. In a quiet farm, there was a dog named Duke who loved to sleep in the sun. Duke had a favorite spot in the barn where he liked to nap. This spot was a cozy manger filled with soft, fresh hay. One sunny day, a group of oxen came into the barn. They were hungry after a long day of work in the fields. The oxen saw the manger full of hay and thought it would be a perfect meal for them. But as they approached the manger, Duke woke up. He saw the oxen coming towards his favorite spot and started to growl and snap at them. Duke didn't want anyone near his cozy place, even though he couldn't eat the hay himself. The oxen were surprised and a little scared. They didn't understand why Duke was behaving this way. "What a selfish dog," said one of the oxen to his friends. "He cannot eat the hay, yet he won't let us eat it either." The oxen were hungry and didn't know what to do. They couldn't go near the manger because Duke wouldn't let them. They stood in the barn, looking at the hay they couldn't eat. One of the farm workers saw what was happening and came over. He saw Duke in the manger, growling at the oxen. The worker gently picked up Duke and said, "Duke, you can't eat the hay. It's for the oxen. You need to share." Duke looked at the worker and then at the oxen. He realized that he had been selfish. He couldn't eat the hay, but he had stopped the oxen from eating it. Duke felt sorry for his behavior. The worker put Duke down in another cozy spot in the barn, where he could still nap in the sun. Duke watched as the oxen finally started to eat the hay from the manger. He wagged his tail, feeling happy that the oxen could eat. The oxen thanked the worker and Duke for letting them have their meal. They were happy to finally be able to eat the hay. From that day on, Duke never slept in the manger again. He understood that it was important to share and not to be selfish. The oxen always greeted Duke with friendly moos whenever they saw him. The story of Duke the dog and the oxen taught everyone on the farm a valuable lesson. It showed them the importance of sharing and being considerate of others' needs. Duke learned that being selfish doesn't help anyone, not even himself. The farm became a place where everyone, animals and humans alike, remembered to share and help each other. They all lived happily, knowing that by working together and sharing, they could all enjoy a peaceful and happy life.
Number 32. The story of Gilbert the goat and Frankie the fox. In a large forest filled with tall trees and chirping birds, there was a deep well. This well was known to all the animals in the forest, but they were careful to stay away from it. One day, Frankie the fox was not paying attention and fell into the well. He tried to jump out, but the walls were too high. As Frankie was trying to think of a way out, Gilbert the goat came to the well. Gilbert was very thirsty and wanted to drink some water. He saw Frankie in the well and asked, "Hey Frankie, is the water down there good?" Frankie, who was clever and cunning, saw a chance to escape. He replied cheerfully, "Oh yes, Gilbert. The water is the best I've ever tasted. Why don't you come down and try it?" Gilbert, thinking only of his thirst, didn't think twice. He jumped down into the well. As he drank the water, he realized he was now stuck in the well with Frankie. Frankie then told Gilbert about his plan to escape. "Listen, Gilbert, if you stand close to the wall and let me climb on your back, I can jump out and then help you out." Gilbert, being a kind and helpful goat, agreed to the plan. So, Gilbert stood against the well's wall, and Frankie climbed on his back. Using Gilbert's head as a step, Frankie jumped out of the well and reached the top. But once Frankie was out, he didn't help Gilbert. Instead, he started to walk away. Gilbert called out, "Frankie, you promised to help me out." Frankie turned around and shouted back, "Gilbert, you should have thought before you jumped into the well. You should have checked if there was a way out before jumping into danger." With that, Frankie ran off, leaving Gilbert alone in the well. Luckily, some other animals heard Gilbert's calls for help and came to rescue him. They felt sorry for Gilbert but also reminded him of the lesson he had learned. The story of Gilbert the goat and Frankie the fox spread through the forest. All the animals talked about how Gilbert had learned the hard way that it's important to think before acting. Gilbert never forgot his experience in the well. He learned to look before he leaped and to be more cautious about trusting others too quickly. He became wiser and more careful, always remembering what happened with Frankie the fox. Frankie, on the other hand, was seen as clever but untrustworthy. The animals in the forest learned to be wary of his tricks. The tale of Gilbert and Frankie became a lesson for all the animals in the forest. They learned that it's important to think ahead and be aware of the consequences before taking any action. And they remembered to be cautious about whom they trust.
Number 33. The Adventure of Tom and Jerry and the Wild Bear. In a small village surrounded by dense forests, there were two friends, Tom and Jerry. They loved exploring the woods and going on adventures together. One sunny day, they decided to take a long hike through the forest. As they were walking and chatting, a large bear suddenly appeared on their path. Tom, who was quick and agile, immediately climbed up a nearby tree and hid among the branches. Jerry, however, couldn't climb the tree in time. Seeing the bear coming closer, Jerry remembered an old trick he had heard from his grandfather. He quickly lay flat on the ground, held his breath, and stayed as still as he could, pretending to be dead. The bear, curious about Jerry, came closer. It sniffed around him, touching him with its snout. Jerry stayed completely still, not even breathing. The bear, thinking that Jerry was not alive, eventually lost interest and walked away. After the bear was gone, Tom climbed down from the tree. He tried to make a joke to lighten the mood. "Hey Jerry, what secret did the bear tell you while you were down there?" Jerry got up, brushed off the dirt, and looked at Tom seriously. He said, "The bear gave me some good advice. It told me never to travel with a friend who leaves you alone in danger." Tom felt ashamed. He realized that he had left Jerry alone to face the danger. He had thought only of himself, not his friend. The incident changed their friendship. Jerry learned that in times of danger, a person's true character is revealed. He understood that a true friend would stay by your side, no matter what. Tom, on the other hand, learned a valuable lesson about loyalty and courage. He regretted leaving Jerry alone and promised himself to be a better friend in the future. The story of their encounter with the bear became well known in the village. It served as a reminder that misfortune and danger test the strength and sincerity of friendships. From then on, Tom and Jerry continued their adventures, but their friendship was different. Tom was more considerate and protective, while Jerry felt more confident, knowing he could count on Tom. Their story taught the villagers about the importance of trust and support in friendships, especially in times of need. The villagers learned to cherish their friends and stand by them during difficult times. Tom and Jerry's adventure with the bear became a tale told over and over in the village, reminding everyone that the true test of friendship comes not during the easy times, but during the moments of challenge and danger.
Number 34. The Tale of Oscar and Oliver the Oxen and the Noisy Wagon. In a quiet village surrounded by fields and meadows, there lived two strong oxen named Oscar and Oliver. They worked on a farm, pulling heavy wagons from one place to another. They were known for their hard work and never complained about their tasks. One sunny day, they were pulling a particularly heavy wagon loaded with sacks of grain. The road was bumpy, and the wagon was old. As they trudged along the country lane, the axle trees of the wagon started to groan and creak loudly. The noise was so loud that it echoed through the fields. Oscar and Oliver, feeling the heavy weight of the wagon, were surprised by the loud noise. They turned their heads and spoke to the wagon's wheels. "Why are you making so much noise?" they asked. "We are the ones doing all the hard work, pulling this heavy load. If anyone should be making noise, it should be us." The wheels, being part of the wagon, couldn't respond. But if they could, they might have said that they were old and the weight was hard on them too. But the oxen only heard their creaking and groaning. Oscar and Oliver continued their journey, pulling the heavy wagon. They didn't make a sound, even though they were working the hardest and feeling the most strain. They just kept going, steady and strong. As they passed through the villagers noticed the loud noise of the wagon. They saw Oscar and Oliver pulling it with all their might and not making a sound. The villagers were impressed by the strength and endurance of the oxen. After delivering the grain to the mill, Oscar and Oliver headed back to the farm. They were tired but satisfied with their work. They had pulled the heavy wagon without complaining, despite the noisy axle trees. The story of Oscar and Oliver and the noisy wagon became a lesson for the people in the village. It taught them that often, those who have the hardest tasks and bear the most burden complain the least. They learned to appreciate the silent strength and resilience of those who work hard without a fuss. The farmer, hearing about the noisy wagon, decided to fix the axle trees. He didn't want his faithful oxen to pull a wagon that made such a racket. He also gave extra care and treats to Oscar and Oliver, thanking them for their hard work. From that day on, the villagers paid more attention to those who worked quietly but diligently. They learned to appreciate the efforts of those who didn't make a show of their struggles. Oscar and Oliver continued to work on the farm, always reliable and strong. Their story was told over and over, reminding everyone that true strength often goes unnoticed and that those who bear the heaviest loads might do so in silence.
Number 35. The story of Patty the Pigeon and the Painted Water. In a small town with bustling streets and colorful shops, there lived a pigeon named Patty. Patty was known for her beautiful gray feathers and her quick flying. But one hot summer day, Patty faced a problem. She was flying around under the hot sun and became very thirsty. As she flew over the town, her eyes caught sight of something that looked like a goblet of water. It was painted on a signboard hanging outside a shop. The water in the painting looked so real and inviting that Patty didn't stop to think if it was real or not. Driven by her thirst, Patty dove towards the painted goblet with great speed, hoping to quench her thirst. She flew with all her might, her wings beating the air loudly. But as she reached the signboard, she realized her mistake. It was not a real goblet of water but just a painting. Patty couldn't stop in time and crashed into the signboard. She hit it so hard that she hurt herself badly. She fell to the ground, her wings broken from the impact. Patty lay on the ground, unable to fly, feeling sad and foolish. A bystander, who had seen Patty crash, came over and picked her up. Patty felt embarrassed about her mistake. She had been so eager to drink the water that she hadn't stopped to think if it was real. Patty's accident became a lesson for all the other pigeons in the town. They learned about her crash into the signboard and how her zeal had led to her downfall. The pigeons understood that it was important to think before acting, even when they were very thirsty or hungry. The story of Patty and the painted water taught the pigeons to be more cautious. They learned to look carefully and think before diving towards something that might not be real. Patty, with the help of kind people in the town, was taken care of until her wings healed. She felt grateful for their help but regretted not being more careful. She promised herself to be more thoughtful and not let her eagerness get the best of her. As time went on, Patty's wings healed, and she was able to fly again. She rejoined her friends, who were happy to see her back in the sky. Patty shared her experience with them, reminding them always to be careful and not to let their desires cloud their judgment. From then on, the pigeons in the town were more discerning. They remembered Patty's story whenever they saw something that looked too good to be true. They learned that it's important to use discretion and not let zeal make them forget to think and observe. Patty continued to fly around the town, now wiser and more careful. Her story was a reminder to all the birds about the importance of being cautious and not rushing into things without thinking.